It was 1859, and this noble British guy, Thomas Austin, was settling in Victoria, Australia. So he bought around 29,000 acres of land, a place now known as Barwon Park. But soon enough, he started feeling homesick. So, to bring a bit of Britain with him, he decided to import rabbits. It was a gentleman's sport in his homeland. So he ordered 24 rabbits from 5 different species and released them in the wild. He thought, what harm could a few rabbits do? He then ignored them for a year or two to let them breed and multiply and hunt later. Other rich British guys followed the suit and did the same thing. But rabbits being rabbits started growing at an exceptional rate. Just 5 years later, neighboring farmers started complaining about rabbits eating their crops. The rabbits had already gone beyond Austin's area and started creating problems. In 1865, Austin's estate alone killed around 14,000 rabbits in that single year. Now, it was not a hunting sport. It was a calamity. Big shots and farmers tried to contain it, but the situation was already out of control. By 1870, there were already hundreds of thousands rabbits running wild, eating the local plants, burrowing holes, creating soil erosions, and destroying the farmers' crops. In just 20 years, those few rabbits multiplied into millions, and local plants and animals were on the verge of extinction. It was a complete ecological disaster. But, lucky for Austin, he already died in 1871, before the people could blame him for his actions. The condition worsened after that. The government started putting bounties on rabbits, whacking them with bats, kicking, shooting. Everything was allowed. Even the sum of £25,000 was offered in 1887 for someone with the solution. But no one won the prize. No physical options seemed to work. After 1890, the government started seeking help from the chemical companies. By 1900, rabbit hadn't gone to the west side. So, people started constructing a fence to stop them from entering the west. They made 3 fences from 1901 to 1908. And what happened after that? Well, some rabbits had already reached west before the fence completion, and some started digging holes to go to other side. So it was a total waste of money and manpower. The situation worsened, and every possible trick was applied to eliminate them. They tried burning the rabbits, throwing bombs in the holes, feeding the poisonous carrots, and even spreading poison from the sky. But nothing worked effectively. It was 1950, and the rabbit population was in billions. But luckily, they introduced a virus to the rabbits. It was called myxomatosis, and it killed over 99% of the rabbits. The population decreased to millions, and people thought they could win this time. But those 1% were virus-resistant, and they started to grow again. The number reached a few hundred million in no time. Then another virus was introduced in the 90s, known as RHDV, or calicivirus. It took down 90% of the population, but again, the survivors developed immunity to the virus. The population increased again. Today, there are around 300 million rabbits in Australia, and new versions of viruses and poisons are still used. It costs Australia over $200 million each year just to handle the rabbit problems. It's a never-ending war, started by a small wish of a homesick guy over 165 years ago. This guy is a Burmese python. Found in Southeast Asia, these mussel noodles are really long, reaching 19 feet in length. These guys were so exotic looking that they were sold as pets in Florida. People started buying them, but due to their very large size, owners started dumping them in the woods. If that wasn't enough, a big hurricane struck southern Florida in 1992. The pet warehouse was destroyed, and around 100 pythons were carried and thrown away to the Everglades. The Everglades had a warm and wet climate, no predators, and all-you-can-eat buffet of diverse animals. This was a paradise for the surviving pythons. So, they made it their new home. For some time, people didn't have the time to care. They had lost a lot. 63,000 houses were destroyed. Economic loss was over $28 billion, and about 65 people lost their lives in that hurricane. So caring about the snakes was out of syllabus. So, the surviving pythons thrived on local cuisine. They ate and bred like crazy. One female python lays around 50 to 100 eggs. In their homeland, the survival rate was below 5%, but here, it was over 20%. So, in just 9 years, the population crossed 50,000. In the early 2000s, people started seeing glimpses of pythons in the parks, but they didn't care much. But after 2005, they started appearing here and there. Now it was actually a problem. They conducted research, started investigating local species and the ecosystem. In 2012, they concluded that all these animals were on the verge of extinction from the Everglades. Pythons even started eating the crocodiles. Now, it was a red alert, but searching them in the vast wetlands was a pain in the butt. So, the hunting started. A lot of python challenges have been conducted since 2013, where the winner is decided on the length and number of total pythons captured. Many other python hunting events are conducted too. In 2024, around 20,000 pythons were caught from all of these events. Females are attached with GPS-like devices to locate breeding grounds and nests. It's working, but not much effectively, and the pythons are still increasing. It's a weird situation now. The pythons are decreasing from the native homelands rapidly, and Florida has over 300,000 pythons. It was late 1800s, and this guy, Eugene Schieffelin, was a part of a group in New York called the American Acclimatization Society. There's a story that says he was a die-hard Shakespeare fan, and in his memory, he wanted to release all the birds in Shakespeare's plays inside Central Park, New York. Anyway, that's what many people believe. But being a member of this group, releasing them to control pests seems more logical though. In any case, he released starlings, skylark, nightingale, chaffinch, bullfinch, song thrush, and a few more birds into the Central Park. But almost all of them died. Maybe the cold killed them, or maybe it was the starvation. But one species was enjoying the new location and thriving happily. And those birds were starlings. Around 100 starlings were imported from Europe and released in Central Park. The birds liked the place and started adapting to the new location. No one cared for some time, and starlings got all the time they needed for breeding. By 1900, they started spreading out of New York, and by 1930, they were a serious ecological problem. By the 1950s, they had reached Canada too. Starlings are bullies by nature. They threaten other birds and fight for nests and food. But in this new land, they had no predators, and they were at the top of bully chain. They started throwing these birds out of their tree holes, stealing the nest area, killing the chicks, and destroying the eggs. They were eating agriculture crops, damaging the economy, and eating all the bugs and foods of other birds too. In the city area, it was even a bigger problem. Thousands of starlings pooping everywhere was a mess. On top of that, the poop would corrode the buildings and structure, and the transmission of diseases like Salmonella and E. coli started. Cleaning the poops was massive pain in the butts. Sometimes over 1 million birds would fly in a swarm, creating chaos and eating all the agricultural produce, cattle foods, and grains. But in 1960, an airplane crashed with a swarm of around 15,000 starlings. Many birds were sucked by the engine. The damage crashed the plane, and 62 people lost their lives. Still today, there are estimated 200 to 300 million starlings in U.S. Fruits and grain agriculture industries are facing a loss of over $1 billion every year, as these birds eat grapes, apple, cherry, strawberry, and many more. The birds introduced to eat bugs are eating $1 billion every year. Well, as thou sowest, thy children shall reap, I guess. Bonk. This guy is a snakehead fish, and you can say they are like a terminator of the fish. They can walk on land, breathe air, and eat everything around them. They mainly eat other fish, frogs, and tadpoles. But since they can live out of water for a few days, they sometimes eat small reptiles, rodents, and even small birds. So they were labeled as invasive species, and it all started from Maryland. Some people bought them as pets. They grew big, and they tossed them in the water nearby. It's a regular story by now, so I'm not surprised to hear it again, I guess. In 2002, a snakehead was spotted in Crofton Pond in Maryland. They did some research and found the pond has few adults and around 1,000 eggs and fries. They immediately poisoned the whole pond, killed every fish in it, dried the pond, and made it clean, just to kill those snakeheads. Now it sparked a terror that these fish were dangerous animals. On top of that, a movie named Frankenfish was made in 2004, where snakehead were dangerous monsters. During the same year, juvenile snakeheads were spotted in the Potomac River. Now it was a big concern as they can't dry the whole river like they dried the pond. The authority tried many different ways from fishing to electrocuting, but nothing worked effectively in that large river. The fish started eating other fish and organisms. The females usually lay around 15,000 eggs per cycle, and the cycle occurs several times per year. Also, the females are overprotective of the eggs, and it caused the population to boom very fast. The local fish population decreased by around 35%, and authorities were highly concerned about it. They started conducting derbies and competition to decrease the population. As of now, they are found in around 16 U.S. states, and it costs over $1 million annually to control the invasion. But, as of the new report, many researchers believe that these fish are not invasive and are living in cooperation with the ecosystem. Though the population of native fish decreased at first, they are now stable. If we can only advertise that these fish are not dangerous and highly nutritious, the fish's food can act as the natural control. Sometimes it feels weird. We humans, sitting on the top of invasion pyramid, are not able to invade the invasive ones. Well, we are not as powerful as we think, I guess. And as always, I love you guys.